Now, as we can see, the deep state, they do believe that they have the upper hand right now. They do believe that they are in control. They think in their minds that they are in control, but they don't know what's coming. They don't know that this was planned. They don't know they've been watched, and they don't know what's about to happen. Now, it's very interesting. We mentioned this yesterday, and it's all over the news where the White House kicked out Jim Acosta. And in Breitbart, Klukowski wrote this article, and it's very, very interesting. And we know that CNN, they filed the lawsuit, Fox News has joined, and many other publications are joining the lawsuit. And in this article, it says Trump will win the lawsuit that CNN filed against him on Tuesday after the White House revoked Jim Acosta's press pass, both because the Constitution does not allow a federal court to issue this kind of order to the White House, and because the First Amendment does not protect what Acosta did. CNN and Acosta responded by filing a federal lawsuit in Washington, D.C., alleging violations of the Constitution's First Amendment and Fifth Amendment. The plaintiffs are suing President Trump, various White House officials like Chief of Staff John Kelly, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and two officers from the U.S. Secret Service, Director Randolph Alley and an unnamed agent who actually took the pass from Acosta. This lawsuit hinges on a 1977 precedent from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit, Sherrill v. Knight. So, a key issue in the D.C. Circuit, which they never considered, is that this sort of lawsuit should be dismissed under the political question doctrine. In Baker v. Carr, the Supreme Court in 1962 identified 6 factors of political cases that cannot be decided by the courts. One Baker factor is that a federal court cannot decide the matter without expressing lack of respect due coordinate branches of government. The White House is the president's house. He lives there and sleeps there. Yes, it has offices, but the White House is not a department. It is not an agency created by Congress and subject to standard congressional oversight. It is, instead, the residence of the independently elected head of state, and those who work there do so as part of his household staff. Now, CNN and Acosta are asking a federal judge to give the president orders concerning whom he must allow into his home. The executive branch is a separate, co-equal branch from the judicial branch. It would be as much of an insult for a federal judge to tell the president that he must allow someone into his living room as it would be for the president to order the Supreme Court regarding whom the justices must allow into their courtroom. Now, this is not about the ability of a reporter to cover the president. Acosta can do that from outside the White House. Nor it is about banning a media outlet. They didn't ban CNN. CNN right now, they have about 50 employees with White House passes, including perhaps a half a dozen reporters or more. This is about the mainstream media going after Trump, trying to make it seem like he doesn't abide by the First Amendment, the Fifth Amendment. He's crazy. He's unhinged. This is what this is about. And it looks like this might have been done on purpose. Now, CNN and Acosta, they're also asserting a violation of the Fifth Amendment due process clause, claiming they have a constitutional right to advance notice of what the White House would do and a written explanation of why the White House did it. Actually, no, they do not. The due process clause asserts that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. They have no right to enter the White House to harass the president. An explanation is always nice to have, but it is not constitutionally required here. And it looks like this is about the mainstream media going after Trump. Now let's move over to what is happening with the election right now. The Florida Department of State, the DOS, last week has asked federal prosecutors to investigate official election documents with the dates changed. So what does this mean? What are they looking for? Well, this whole thing centered around date changes on forms used to fix vote by mail ballots sent with incorrect or missing information, known as cure affidavits. Those documents used to fix mail ballots were due no later than 5 p.m. on November 5th, the day before the election, but affidavits released on Tuesday by the DOS showed that the documents from 4 different counties said the ballots could be returned by 5 p.m. on Thursday, which is not accurate. So right now, Brenda Snipes, she's in the crosshairs. She's targeted, but she thinks she's protected. She's protected by the deep state like she's been in the past. Now, very interestingly, Benny from the Daily Caller tweeted out the following, and this is how we know something is about to change. Said, just spent 30 minutes in the Oval Office with President Trump. He was joking, he was lively, he was energized. Big news to come, this is all caps, on Florida recount. Brenda Snipes, Kelly Nielsen, CNN lawsuit, Tucker Carlson mom incident, Amazon's headquarters, GOP leaders race, criminal justice. Now, Judicial Watch is also down in Florida, in Broward County, and they are also monitoring the midterm election fiasco. So we have Judicial Watch and others looking at this. So I want to go back to post 1833. This is back in August. And Q put up, this is just a small list of things requiring ID but not considered racist. And we listed all these before, welfare, Medicaid, mortgage, buy a car, rent a car, and the rest, buy a house, condo, and all that stuff. But the part I wanted to read is this, which I find very interesting because in later posts, Q told us to watch California. In this post, it says California, New York, notorious voter fraud, controlled and coordinated by corrupt, so-called volunteer state officials. Logical thinking. Why are D's opposed to implementing voter ID laws? Remember that. 2446. Q put up, and this is back in November 7th, how do you catch a fish? Mission forward. Remember, this whole thing's a setup. How do you catch a fish? You bait them. And that's what's happening right now. 2463, this is November 2nd. And it says, and this is the map of, where the illegals come in and all the voting areas. And down below, it says, and it also has the voter ID. These are, this is the smallest of things requiring ID. Took the post from the previous post and put this in here. And down below it says, will recent expected voter fraud actions by the D Party provide support for a voter ID law? Voter ID law equals death of D Party, boomerang suicide. So right now we have just witnessed and still are witnessing the largest sting operation in human history where they're targeting election fraud. Now, will Trump allow Arizona seat to be stolen? Absolutely yes. We've already seen it done. He will let others have their way. He will make them feel comfortable, like they have the upper hand. And then what will happen? Trump will then contest the validity of the election based on proof provided by Homeland Security. Trump will contest every House and Senate seat that he can prove was stolen by fraud. Those who are in positions in the Senate and House and those who committed the fraud will be arrested. Their number twos will step forward when special elections take place. But this time, they won't be able to cheat. So, think about that. Their number twos. Let's go back to post 2444, November 7th. Remember, the Senate was the prize. Lower chamber House used as 2-year starter. Upper chamber Senate will be used next 2-year closer. This is very interesting. So Trump will then implement voter ID. Homeland Security's 2017 investigation into widespread election fraud during the 2016 election, well, they would have identified all the suspicious fraudsters and their methods, but they didn't. They wanted to catch them out in the open for this purpose. We are witnessing the biggest election fraud sting in human history. Q re-emphasized that midterms were safe on November 11th in Q Post 2475. They are safe. They're going through the process, and everything is about to change. Now, we know that all the pieces had to come together, and Sessions was activated. Now we know that meant he was going to hand in his resignation so they can allow Matthew Whitaker into the acting role for Attorney General. And we talked about this where Trump used his executive order and the Vacancies Reform Act to allow Whitaker into this position. Now, out of the mainstream media, they had to admit to it because how do you work around it? You really can't. So out of USA Today, they have the headline, Department of Justice, Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, unquestionably authorized to leave department. The Justice Department Wednesday defended Trump's appointment of Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker by asserting that his senior executive status at the department unquestionably authorized him to serve despite his lack of Senate confirmation. The 20-page opinion issued by the Justice Office of Legal Counsel based its finding on provisions of the Vacancy Reform Act, which allows for the appointment of senior staffers who have been in office for at least 90 days. Yes, this was planned. And guess what? They can't do anything about it. And if they try, well, Tracy Beans on Twitter brought up a very good point. They've done this before themselves. It has been done when Obama was in office 3 times. And in the opinion, they even mention this. In 3 instances, President Obama placed a chief of staff above at least one Senate-confirmed officer within the same department. Now, this was put into the opinion on purpose, showing Obama did this. And the reason why they did this is to say, hey, where were you when he did this 3 times? This was already done. You can't argue about it anymore. And again, this was all done on purpose. So let's go to Post 2397. I'm going to read the part down below. How do you remove installed blockade? D-class, D-class, D-class. How do you navigate around installed corrupt FBI Department of Justice? You use a stealth bomber. Matthew Whitaker is the stealth bomber. 2459. Stealth bombers fly undetected. Matthew Whitaker was undetected. They had no clue that this was coming. They thought, ooh, Sessions is recused. Sessions is staying. Trump better not fire him, which he didn't. He resigned. Rod Rosenstein has control over Mueller. Stealth bomber, undetected, comes in, is now the acting attorney general. He's not recused. He takes control away from Rod Rosenstein. Now, Whitaker has control over Mueller. Is he going to fire him? Absolutely not. So what happens next? The D-class, the investigations, the indictments. It's all about to happen. Now remember, 45 days for the election fraud. Remember the executive order. So are we going to see the D-class today? Tomorrow? No, because everything is not set in the House and the Senate. Those have to be wrapped up, I do believe, before any of this will start to come out. The placeholders are being put into place. But everything has to be in position. And they needed to do this for a specific reason, to remove certain people so they couldn't interfere for what is coming. Plus, they get rid of election fraud. Right now, if you really think about it, as the deep state is doing this, they're in the spotlight. Everyone is looking at this and watching what they're doing. This was done on purpose. But the real meat and potatoes is happening behind the scenes, where they have all the evidence. So everything is getting prepared, and it looks like there's one more piece that needs to be put in place. And once you have that, target is then locked on. Fire run ready. We see the caravan is making its way up to the San Diego border of California. The first group looks like it broke off from the main caravan, came up to Tijuana, now is at the border, and they are climbing the fences. So I guess when Jim Acosta said that they're not going to do this, I guess he was completely wrong, because they are doing this. It looks like they're testing, what are the Border Patrol agents going to do? And again, if these people want asylum, if these people want to come into this country, why don't they just go to the port of entry? Why are they trying to climb the wall? Because these individuals were paid to do this. This is a planned operation. Now, we need to remember what Q said in Post 2466, because this is very important. Q put up the American flag. This is November 9th. This is after the election. And said, "Patriot, a person who loves, supports, and defends his or her country and its interests with devotion. Number 2, a person who regards himself or herself as a defender, especially of individual rights, against presumed interference by the federal government. Traitor, a person who betrays another, a cause, or any trust. A person who commits treason by betraying his or her country." Now, Q put this up on purpose, and I'm bringing it up on purpose, because as we head through these next couple of weeks, everything is going to change. We're going to see a lot of things change, and the deep state, they're going to push their events as hard as they possibly can, because they know what is coming. But this has been planned from the beginning. Now, again, can the plan deviate? Absolutely. Plans are not foolproof. You're dealing with the other side, where they're going to counter moves. So lower your expectations of what you think is going to happen. Drop your emotions. Think logically. Think about what needs to be done to lock everything in before we go after the deep state, the central bank, and the rest. Everything has to be put in place for a reason. You can see, going all the way back, why it was completely impossible to prosecute anyone from the very beginning. This is why they had to put everything into place, because how do you do anything if you don't have the right people in the right positions? Because if you have judges, if you have attorney generals, if you have all the people that are on the deep state side, do you really think you're going to get a fair trial? No. You have to get rid of all those people. You have to make it so where this follows the rule of law, and there's no way out of these people, because they're going to have to produce evidence, real evidence, which they've been gathering for what, 2 years? That's the other part of the plan. Think about how much they've gathered, what they have. And now these people have to defend against it. It's going to be very, very difficult, because they have their signatures. They have them on video. They have them on audio. They have signed documents. It had to be this way. And they needed time to put everything into place. Everything is in place. We're just waiting for the last piece. And once that last piece is clicked in, that's it. Open fire. You're ready to go. And you'll see the indictments. Boom. You'll see the D class. Boom. You'll see boom, boom, boom. The deep state, everything around them will crash down around them. They won't even know what to do. I mean, they'll push multiple events to keep all of those events in the news cycle, to disrupt what is really going on. They will try everything they have. It will fail. They will not be able to stop the trials, the military tribunals. They will not be able to stop what is happening here. They'll try, but they will fail. Because, as Q always says, we have everything, we know everything.